hang on, let's click admit all. That would help, wouldn't it? Right.
Oh, wow.
Good evening, everybody. I'll just give it a minute or so while we let everybody in. Brilliant. So good, right. So, hi everyone. My name is Sophie. I'll be presenting this evening. And just while we're letting everyone else in, I'll do a little bit of housekeeping. Just so you're aware, this event is being recorded and there will be a follow-up email afterwards. So I'll be sending out the links and the questions and the main things that have been raised throughout. So don't worry about taking too many notes. If you do have a question, please pop that into the chat. And we will go through all those questions in the Q&A section towards the end. So they won't be forgotten, they'll all be recorded there. And the Q&A towards the end as well, that is an opportunity for sharing something that you do near the river or any other questions that you have related to this. We've got a lot of knowledge and experience in this webinar, so I'm sure between us we could answer any questions or share that. It's like a little networking opportunity. And this is a very safe space. I'm pretty sure we're all nature friendly here, but just as a reminder to be polite and respectful to everybody that's in this meeting. So I think I'll begin then. So yeah, I'm Sophie. I work on Team Wilder at Avon Wildlife Trust, and I'm really happy to be presenting this Team Wilder Community Campfire Rivers Edition. So Team Wilder is a growing movement of people who notice and celebrate nature in their day-to-day lives. It takes the global problem of biodiversity loss and brings it down to a local level. We want to make taking action for nature a social norm. And to do that, we're sharing knowledge, experience, all local relevant stories and resources to inspire and motivate people to take action for nature where they live. There's a different topic for Team Wilder each month. This month, we're talking about rivers. And it's been an amazing project to get campaign to be involved in. I've spoken to different people along the River Avon, and we chatted about concerns and actions for nature that they're taking with a view to share this experience. So, yeah, this evening, we're going to have a talk from Amy, who is our community ecologist. We'll go over to her in just a moment. And we've got some amazing community speakers as well, who will introduce as we go through. But what we wanted to do, if you could mute your, you mute while someone's speaking, that would be great. So the purpose of this is to really, take these concerns. So what came through in all of these stories is an importance and a great love for freshwater habitats and river corridors. We all use rivers for well-being, for mental health, for recreation, for the joy, for the beauty. Water is life, and the river supports so many species that live along this river corridor. Key themes that came out was people are noticing a lot more pollution, less water quality, there's a lot more sewage runoff, there's a lot more litter found in there, and also direct effects of climate change. We are seeing more flooding, we are seeing more extreme river events, which directly affects a lot of people on these rivers and people visiting it and all the wildlife that live along it. There's also an increase in invasive non-native species, and sharing all of these concerns and a real eco-anxiety and almost like a guilt for trying to help, for not being able to do something to make a difference to help protect these rivers, has led to a lot of community groups, a lot of speakers here and in the resource that we've got, that it's motivated them to do something about this, to stand out there, to make a change. And that's why we're here today, to share some of these. So, I'm just going to introduce Loz as well, who's here from the Festival of Nature. Did you want to say hello, Loz?
Yeah, perfect. Hello, everyone. As Sophie said, my name's Loz Emerson. I'm the Citizen Science Programmes Manager of the Natural History Consortium, and we're the charity that organises Festival of Nature, which, if you haven't heard of it, is a 9-day programme of events taking place this week with loads of organisations and community groups taking part in delivering events that help inspire action for nature across Bristol and Bath. We're now on day 3 of the festival. There's still loads of events to go, so I'll drop a link to the program in the chat, but just want to say thank you for joining us for this Team Wilder Community Campfire event today.
Nice one, thanks Loz. And so first up is our first speaker. We've got Amy Cook, who's a community ecologist and has heaps of knowledge, experience and passion for all things nature and for all things community. So I will hand over to Amy for the first talk of the evening.
Amazing. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Loz, for being part of the delivery body for Festival of Nature. It's always a joy to be part of. And thanks, Soph, for putting on the event this evening. Welcome, everybody. I thought, because we're at the very beginning of the week, we'd start with a nice overview of rivers. You know, we've got lots of other events where I'm sure we'll deep dive into the more sort of technical specialist areas of river ecology and biology and conservation and volunteering. I know just based on a few of the speakers this evening, we're going to hear some of those sorts of real interesting specific areas that people have decided to work on. But I thought let's start off with an overview of rivers and how they support us, and how we're affecting them and what we can do to support them. So starting off, as Soph said, rivers are essential for all life. We know this. We know fresh water is so important for our wider environment, but also for all living organisms on Earth. You know, we are 70% water. Fresh water makes a really tiny percentage of the total water on the planet. And naturally, even before humans have any impact on water, it's very rare to find water that is already safe to drink. So water is a really precious life source. We're going to go a little bit further into the different ways that we use water. But yeah, you know, it shapes the land, it hydrates the ecosystems on land, and it moves nutrients through our wider ecosystems from land into sea. Like I mentioned, shaping the land, floodplains and bogs absorb water in the winter. They top up aquifers that give us water throughout the summer. And when we have healthy wetlands and water systems, we can reduce the impacts of seasonal flooding. We're very lucky in Avon that we have both the Somerset levels to our south around the Mendips and also the South Gloucestershire and Severn Vale wetlands. But these wetlands have been really heavily physically modified. They've been drained for agriculture for hundreds of years. So whilst the water shapes the land, when we interfere with that for our own benefit, it can have a lot of further knock-on effects to how the water is able to do its job. Also touched on already, enjoyment and well-being. Obviously, we know already that nature has a huge positive impact on our sense of well-being and our mental health, but rivers really can provide fantastic sources of physical exercise, of leisure time, and also the way that we've historically utilised water to survive throughout history. You know, all of our historical civilizations have been based around the key large wet-planed river systems of the Euphrates River, going back all the way to the start of modern civilization. Carrying on that theme, we use water for transport historically and today. You know, we have a massive system of canals across the UK. These are artificial waterways that divert our natural river systems. We dam our water to be able to create eel houses. We've used water systems for trade internationally. And today, you know, we have shipping routes crisscrossing the world and going into our estuaries and sometimes into our large water systems like the Bristol, Severn, the Avon and the Thames. We've always utilised water as the force of water as our sources of power, whether that's putting in huge hydroelectric dams inspired by the natural woody dams of our historic beaver populations, or diverting water courses for water mills to mill flour. We've always relied on the power of water to provide us with our electrical or power sources, all the way to, you know, modern day evolutions of tidal barrages and even portable water systems that allow really rural communities to harness the water flow to create local electric systems. Notoriously, our food and water, you know, we rely on food and we rely on water to irrigate our food systems, and this over time has industrialized from the very early irrigation systems and sort of, I would say, primitive or very basic water systems that are still used in a lot of very sort of rural, dry climates around the world, all the way to sort of really technical, massive pumping stations that pump water out of rivers and into various sort of dry and arid environments and back out again. Yeah, without rivers, we would have to really rethink our modern agricultural systems. And lastly, I've included climate regulators. Wetlands are massive carbon stores, and the shade that's created by the vegetation that grows on wetland systems is really important, both on the micro scale for the wildlife that lives there, but also the macro scale. Our cities experience urban warming because of the dark color of the asphalt and the way that it reflects heat and doesn't absorb it the way that our greener habitats and ecosystems do. Also, the amount of carbon that we're able to lock away in peat bogs is really, really important. And peat bogs are actually a more important or a more continuous store of carbon than forests are, because they exist for thousands and thousands of years. But what are the main threats to the rivers? I hope everybody on the call that is already slightly aware of some of the threats to our rivers is appreciating my clip art skills in this slide. Just to point out a couple, we've got our drained wetlands here on the right. We've got our development here. We've got some housing causing spillage. We've got you know, a couple of the notorious invasives here, some zebra mussels, but also overfishing of our native food stocks. So changing the river courses to suit us by draining our wetlands, straightening our rivers to make them, you know, more controllable, more straight and less prone to flooding, and building canals for transport and moving of materials around the country has serious knock-on effects for the natural processes that river can carry out. Intensive farming, as we saw earlier, that farming is great when it's done in a sort of low productivity way, and we've got more naturalized organic or low input systems. But when we intensify that, we are pumping artificial fertilizers, pesticides and herbicides onto our land. And over time, from the source of the water all the way through what we call the catchment, until that river reaches the sea, the buildup of these chemicals just increases, which further decreases the quality of the water and has really disruptive effects on the natural balance of the aquatic ecosystem and the bug life that lives in it. Invasive plants as well. I went a bit to town on the clip art here, but I hope you appreciate we've got more of our natural wildflower species, a nice diversity up at the top here. But then as we move through our sort of perhaps more urban areas, or just areas where there's been historical releases of maybe invasive carp species or American signal crayfish, we've got some bamboo here that's escaped from gardens. We've got the notorious Himalayan balsam. I'm not sure what this one is, but I like that it looked a bit gooey. We've got some zebra snails here, an import often on the hull of ships and in the bilge water of ships. And then we've got some Japanese knotweed down here. These exotic species make their way into our waterways, and it's really, really hard to get back on top of their populations. And unfortunately, the result is that they cause massive knock-on effects by outcompeting our native species, overshadowing or outcompeting for nutrients our native plants, and eventually causing serious damage to the integrity of our rivers river banks. Another element of threats to rivers is when corners are cut in building works, we get massive problems with pollution and particularly siltation. Now, I include when corners are cut because there are ways that responsible developers and responsible construction companies will utilize silt traps and make sure that their nutrient neutrality is all on board and done in line with national policy. But unfortunately, there's 101 reasons why sometimes accidents and sometimes negligence will result in pollution events, whether that's building waste making its way into rivers or the result of poor land use and historically our landfill sites were not sealed in the correct way, which causes nasty chemicals to leach into our environment and unfortunately into our river systems. However, of course, I focused on the doom and gloom because we're about to have some wonderful other speakers telling us about the beautiful projects that they run in our wider Avon area. But I just wanted to remind everyone that we can improve the situation for our rivers. Our rivers, even though they're getting a lot of press nowadays for the poor condition, have been a lot worse in previous decades. They are arguably better now than they were 20 years ago, which is a testament to how poor the water quality has been for a really long time. And those improvements, the amount of traction that the river condition is getting in the national news, is all a result of people caring, people shouting about these issues and bringing them to the forefront of political and personal conversations. So we can help our rivers by telling politicians that we've had enough of pollution incidences going unmonitored and unresponded to, unenforced. You can help by getting involved in river projects and doing litter picks in your local area, whether that's a formalized litter pick or just taking a litter pick with you when you're on a dog walk, or maybe doing the school run in the morning if you've got time. Being really mindful of your water use as well, not putting additional pressure on the fresh water that we do have that's been processed and is safe for us to drink. And also recycling more and consuming less has a massive impact on the health of our rivers, whether that's, making sure that you are clearing up after being out and about, or you're making sure that you're using secondhand clothing, because a lot of fresh water goes into the creation of clothing. But I've got a short video here, which I'm not sure if we've got time for. Do we have time, Sophie? It's a 4 or 5 minute video just about stage 0 restoration. I can't see.
Yeah. I think you had I gave you
25 past. Great.
Minutes.
So I'll play this for a couple of minutes because it's my penultimate slide. But this is a really wonderful video. Unfortunately, it's not from the Avon Wildlife Trust, but it's one of our it's a project down in Devon in maybe it's in Somerset actually. Yeah, in Somerset, at a National Trust estate called Honeycutt, which has performed something called a stage 0 restoration, which I think is a really great example of how sometimes we have to take things right back to basics so that we can allow wildlife to flourish and start again. And it's just a really great video to lighten up. Oh, you can see I don't have. Can I mute this advert? Yeah, I'll just quickly play this advert. I don't have a paid subscription to YouTube, so we'll just quickly wait for this to pass. But yeah, a bit of positivity after my dooming. Can everyone see that?
The National Trust has just completed work on the UK's first large-scale Stage 0 river restoration project. The aim is to reconnect the River Aller with its floodplain, creating a more natural and diverse river ecosystem, with slower water flow reducing the risk of flooding.
We've obviously engineered this river restoration. It's something that we've proactively done. We used earth-moving equipment to fill the river in, quite a long section of it. We then placed a lot of timber on the site. You can see all around us, about 700, 800 tons of timber on the site. They provide a bit of complexity for that water moving across the site, but it's also about habitat. Over 40% of UK wildlife is dependent in some way on deadwood habitat. So it's important that we've got some of that available. And then we planted quite a lot of trees, wildflower seed and wetland species as well. And all of that is just to give that wetlands system a bit of an ecological kickstart. Most types of river restoration historically have just changed the channel form. So you've bank lowered in places or re-meandered in places. What this restoration looks to do is completely do away with that channel. It's thinking outside of the channel. So it's not a river as we would think. The river is all around us. It's moving through the soil. It's in these ponds. It's in these streams sort of moving through the landscape. It's much more complex and much more dynamic than it was before. The benefits of this type of river restoration are that you haven't just got a river channel anymore. You've got much more extent of habitat. It's incredible now, you know, it's only a few weeks post-restoration, and I'm really personally pleased with it. As you can see, there's lots of water about, there's lots of new vegetation, there's lots sprouting up, there's dragonflies, there's lots of aquatic invertebrates, you can hear birds. It's a very different site than it was just a few months ago. There's lots of opportunities here for wildlife, but there's multiple ecosystem benefits. Damper soils tend to hold more carbon. We're also helping to mitigate the impact of extreme weather. We're holding more water on the site during these dry periods. You know, it's almost drought conditions now, and this site is still saturated with water. It's a sponge, you know, we've raised those groundwater levels. Hopefully during times of more extreme rainfall, that water is going to be flowing more slowly through this site as well. So we're protecting downstream communities from flooding.
The site will be carefully monitored, and if the restoration is successful, the project hopes to introduce beavers into the ecosystem.
So what you're looking at here is a beaver engineered wetland, and this is obviously quite a big beaver dam.
I'm just going to stop there because I know we've got a couple of speakers that will be speaking about beavers later. So I'll just wrap up by mentioning there's resources to find out more about your local river action, the actions you can take to support your local rivers at the Avon Wildlife Trust website, at the rivers resource that Sophie is going to be sharing after this talk, but also just generally about actions you can take to support wildlife as part of the Team Wilder Resources page. Bristol Avon Rivers Trust, I know that Kai's going to talk a bit about that. Great to hear from somebody who's on the ground doing one of their projects, but they've got several different projects that you can get involved with across the entire Avon region, whether that's sort of smaller commitments or much more larger commitments that require specialist training. And then the Freshwater Habitats Trust have got a pioneering the Freshwater Habitats Network, which is all about connecting waterways, getting more urban and rural ponds created. So yeah, another great resource. So thanks for listening to me. I'm going to pass on to, shall I pass back to you, Soph, or shall we go straight to Alison?
Yeah, sure. I'll just say a little introduction and things like that. Thanks ever so much, Amy. That's really informative. That's great. And also just to reiterate that Amy has there's a lot of experience here as well, but Amy is a very good ecologist as well. So if anyone has any river questions or ecology questions, then please pop them into the chat and we will get to them towards the end for the Q&A. Also, before we move on as well, it would be really interesting to see where people's local rivers are. If you wanted just to share your local river, and if there's any like community groups near you, or if there's any actions being taken that you're aware of, that would be really nice to see as well. Just pop those into the chat and we can have a look at those later on as well. And our next speaker is Alison Harper, who is from Grow Bath Eastern, and she's been working really, really hard on the Coexistence River Project. And I was really proud to be at her event on Friday evening. I think there's a few of them. I see Emma in the in the crowd as well. There was over 100 people at this event, and it was all bringing people to come together as a celebration of the river. And yeah, it was wonderful. So I've invited Alison just to share some of her experience about the engagement and things in the local area. So I'll hand over to you, Alison.
Okay, thank you. Is that okay? Can you hear me and see me?
Yeah, we can hear you, yes.
Well, I don't know how far back to go, really. Yeah, we had the event on Friday, which was, it seemed a long time coming. I must admit, I was quite glad when it was over. But you did look nice in your beaver outfit, Sophie. I don't think many people know that you ran, was it a half marathon in that suit? to raise money for beavers. You should have had that. You should have had a placard on your back, really. Anyway, Sophie came dressed as a beaver, and we had talks about beavers and other things, pollution generally, and also wonderful talk by and a presentation by Alex Domansky, who is a biologist, he's a filmmaker, he's a photographer, and he's just an amazing person. So watch out for him, and do get to know him, because he's so nice. And he probably won't have time to do any work for you, though, because he's getting busier and busier. People are asking him to make films. He's got such a beautiful touch, and he made a film for us. We did a project at the school to involve the children more in river life, but they know quite a lot about it anyway. But yeah, so he went in and did some filming. We did an art project with Marion Hill, who's another amazing person, and who does the amazing collage. I expect you've seen the insects. And also Julie Starks, who works in Willow, who is about to launch her shoal of fish in the middle of Bath that have been made out of willow and tissue paper. And they look incredible. I've just seen photos of them, and they just look stunning. So I'm not sure when they're opening, but yeah, really looking forward to seeing that. So we had some of the children's work on display, and then the work that Marion had done with the children, she was able to transpose or get printed onto little tiles, and these were put up just over the pedestrian bridge over the Avon, so people can see them. There are about 60 of them that Joanne Radway, the National Trust Ranger, had to drill holes in to attach them to the fence. But they look fantastic. And so what I've been doing is very much a team effort. It's not just about me. I feel, yeah, I come from like a creative artistic background, and I think maybe that gives me an eye to just, and I really know the people who are gonna seem to gel together and come up with amazing things, and then I might suggest something, and someone else suggests something, and it becomes, you know, an interesting project. So I think the river is, we've got the Avon going through here. Bath Easton is the east side of Bath, so it goes from Bradford on Avon down, Bath, Bristol, and also where we live. We've got St Catherine's Brook at the bottom of our garden, so that feeds into the Avon too. And we did hoik out a black crayfish, yeah, the other day, and they're huge. They're really quite scary, but we know that at Prior Park they overtook the lake there, and they just every so often they have to hoik them out and dispatch them, which isn't a nice job, but yeah, anyway, various ways to do that. Apparently one time they were taking out all the big ones, the big males, and then apparently that was the wrong thing to do. You should take out the smaller ones, apparently. But anyway, so yeah, so a few years ago there was a rumour that there were beavers in the River Avon, and thought it was some kind of joke or something. And then I went to a talk put together by Joanna Wright, who's the Green Councillor for Lambridge, and she organised this walk with, it was Rob Stevens, who used to work for Avon Wildlife, and about 100, yeah, so lots of people were just intrigued and came, and there were about 100 people on this walk. So it was amazing. And then there was a talk by Bevis Watts afterwards. So yeah, there really were beavers in the Avon, and yeah, and I had no idea. In fact, I didn't know much about beavers at all, to my great shame. I thought they were like an American creature, and I had no idea they were all over Europe. And the river really has come alive for me since discovering beavers, finding out about their lifestyle, the difference that they can make, and all that seems like so many of the wrongs that are happening, they can put right. And yeah, they're just incredible creatures. And I since realised there's quite a few beaver fiends around, especially in Avon Wildlife Trust, who yeah, have supported the project, and Emma then Hodson talked as well on Friday. So that was a lovely talk. So yeah, just so many things, like I think we've already mentioned some, like flood prevention. I love how they eat willow, because there's willow trees, ancient willow trees along the Avon near here. And how excited you get if you see a bit of chewed wood. You pick up sticks and chips of wood. And the pollarded trees, which are actually reinvigorated by being chewed. And they don't eat fish, so they've got this lovely benign presence. And yeah, and things like having wood in the water. And we're going to do a stream clean here on Wednesday. There's all sorts of stuff in that stream. And I mentioned it to somebody, and they said, oh yeah, it'd be really good to get all the wood out, because you know, it'll make the flooding better, because we get quite the meadows here flood, and last year they flooded 4 or 5 times. So this person thought that maybe taking things out of the stream would kind of aid the flood of water and, you know, help the flooding. So I was sort of a bit taken aback, and I didn't say anything, because what would you say? But I know that wet wood. Actually, I've just learned another phrase today. Deadwood habitat, as it's called, is really good for invertebrates, various things that can eat it, and also the way the water flows around it is really important for fish and smaller creatures. And I had no idea that sort of thing happened, that just a piece of wood in a stream or in a river can, you know, alter the flow of the water. Yeah, and the whole wet woodlands thing is a habitat to be, you know, fought for, really. And most of England was wet woodland at one time. Would that be true? And everything's been drained, so we've got to try and put it back to some extent. They don't eat fish. Did I say that before? As stated by C.S. Lewis. And we had a nice film on that Friday, made by the Beaver Trust, about beavers and salmon, and how salmon are in dire straits also, but they can benefit from beavers being in the water and the habitats that they make. So that was a really interesting film to watch. How long have I been, Sophie? Are you counting?
No, okay. Yeah, if you wanted to, yeah, you've got another minute or so, but yeah, it's
well. So the event followed on from last year, where we did everyone, you know, beavers seemed to be really a hot topic. So yeah, we did an event mainly around beavers, but this time we focused it more around. Well, we tried to focus it a bit more around rivers, but it's hard to get away from beavers because they're just so good for our rivers and our wet spaces. Yeah, so it went okay, and quite a few local people came, and quite a lot of women came, actually, I noticed, but that could have been because there was a rugby match on the bar, which some people might have gone to. Yeah, I don't know there's much else to say, really, apart from yeah, very much a team effort on my part. It's just a question of sort of getting everyone together. And yeah, and the technician, we had some money this year too from the parish council to pay for the event, so that was brilliant. We could pay the technician, paid Alex to make it films, and we've paid for the artists, of course, so that was all really good. And then the parish council now have paid our Grow Bath Easton's running costs for the coming year, so that means we don't have to sort of, you know, fundraise in quite the same way. So that was all really good. And we've just done a tree trail as well. Yeah, and we're going to try and put the film Alex made, it started off with this beautiful song called The River is Flowing. Yeah, it's lovely. It's an old folk song, but this lady sang it, and Alex so cleverly he put it at the beginning of his film. So everybody was just rapt by this beautiful song. I think if I'd been making a film, I would have put it at the end, but no, it was so clever of him to put it at the beginning. And then he had the images of the children, and yeah, and then the teachers spoke, and it was all quite moving. I was quite emotional at the end of it. But anyway, yeah, I think that's probably 10 minutes, isn't it? So
yeah, that's 10 minutes. But no, thank you so much for sharing what you do. Yeah, I mean, I definitely wanted to invite Alison from Grow Bath Easton, because they're a really good example of having a big variety of different events, bringing the community together. There is a nature theme, there is a sustainable food theme, but it will be football, it will be art, it will be creativity, and it just brings everyone together to raise awareness and show support. And it's a really, really beautiful place as well. So thank you for sharing about your experience, and really good tips for engagement and working with parish councils for funding as well, which is a big barrier for community groups as well. So thank you. That's great. I'll move on to our next speaker, Kai. I'm really excited to hear from as well. So Kai has worked with quite a few different community groups as well. He's always out with different community events and helping out where he can. And it's just a real inspiration. And there's a deep kind of desire to share knowledge and inspire other people. And he told me he wanted to show how it's easy to get involved with. And yeah, when you are passionate about something, you want to make a difference, it's brilliant to share knowledge. It's a great action to take. So yeah, can I pass over to Kai, who's going to speak about riverfly monitoring. Are you there, Kai?
Yes. Hello.
Yeah. Amazing.
Hi everyone. So yeah, I'm Kai. I'm based in BS9 and was a wildlife champion with Avon Wildlife Trust last year. And I also became a riverfly monitor with Bart as well. And I'm lucky enough to live by not one but two rivers. So I live right by the River Trim and also the River Avon. And I live right by where they meet. So it's a really cool place to be, actually. And it's somewhere I spend like all of my free time. I love going walks down there. My camera roll is just filled of pictures of the area, the wildlife, all the birds, the insects, everything. And it's a real place of like sanctuary and kind of like peace for me. And so I feel like passionate to want to help preserve it for other people as well, which is why riverfly monitoring was the perfect way for me to get involved, basically, to do that. So for anyone that doesn't know what riverfly monitoring is, or it basically involves taking regular samples from a particular area of the river and counting all the species found. So to do a riverfly sample, you would start by filling up like a bucket of water, big bucket, and empty that into a tray, ready to put all your samples in later on. And then you want to sort of look at the river and assess like different habitats in that particular area. So if there's some fast flowing water or slower flowing water, a more rocky area or like more weeds, you're going to take 3 samples essentially. So you want to take one from each bit to give more variety, I guess. And sorry, I've written a few things down. So to take the sample, you want to work in pairs at least, so because it's just easier. So you'd have one person timing you for a minute, and then the other person would get in the river, and you would have a net, and you put the net on the very base of the riverbed, and you kick with your heel upstream of the net, so that anything flowing down will go into the net, basically, like that you've disturbed. And then once you've done that for a minute, you empty the net into the tray and repeat that 2 more times. And that's your 3 samples. And then you can also from then do a minute of kind of like manually looking around for any like larger rocks in the river that you can like upturn and sweep the invertebrates like directly into the net that way as well. And then they can also be added to your sample. So then it's time to identify and count the sample. So there's 8 target groups that you're essentially looking for, which are the cased caddis, which I think are super cool with the way that they build their little homes. The caseless caddis, you've got the upwinged flies, so the mayfly, the blue-winged olives, your standard olives, flat-bodied flies, and stoneflies, as well as gammarus, which are extremely abundant in the river. If you don't see any gammarus, then that is a big problem just straight away, basically. But it's also probably worth mentioning that you're not expected to find all 8 groups in one sample session, because I mean you could, and that would be amazing, but it's not expected. It's more about the numbers of each one that you do find. So once you've got a rough estimate for each of those numbers and species that you've seen, they can be converted to give you a score. So each individual riverfly site is given a trigger level score. So for my site on the trim, it is 4, which means that any score, sample score that is below that, so 3 or below, would signify that there's like a big problem, like maybe pollution or something. So then you would want to repeat the sample to make sure it wasn't just like a human error or an outlier. And also just have a look for any obvious signs that there's an issue, like, you know, dead insects or fish, smell, you know, obvious things. And if the problem persists, then I would contact BART and they would get in contact with the Environment Agency if it was worth doing so, who could then come and like investigate. So it's a really great way to keep a tabs on the river health. And also contribute to like citizen science, because you upload all the data onto a website called Cartographer, and that's basically collects everyone's riverfly samples, and essentially you're just creating like a huge map of the river health, like around, you know, so that's like amazing on a much bigger scale. So in terms of getting involved, I just signed up through BART's website, and I got on the volunteer waiting list, because I think there is a wait list because it is that good. And I just had to do a short like online test after reading some things to make sure I knew what I was getting myself into. And then I attended an in-person volunteer training day. And on that day, literally, we got to go in, do like a whole practice run of everything. I was given all the equipment I needed and signed off, basically ready to go. So it was simple, and it was really, really good fun. And the samples only need to be done like either monthly or bi-monthly, which I have found really, really helpful, because with my shift work job, I find it really hard to commit to like weekly regular volunteering days. So I think this is a more flexible option for people that still want to get involved and do stuff, but maybe have struggle committing like I do. And I've never had the site drop below the trigger level yet, so that's great. And we do tend to get quite good samples. We've seen bullhead fish and an elver, which I was really excited about because that's amazing. I never knew that that was something that was in that river, so that was great. And great as well from an environmental point of view. And also another thing that's cool is that because you're like working directly in the river, a lot of people kind of stop and ask you what you're doing, which I think is a great way to open up a conversation about river health and potentially recruit more volunteers. So that's always good. And on that note, I have to do another sample quite soon. So I was going to say, if anyone is interested in coming along to that, wants to find out a bit more, just get involved, I'd be more than happy to do that with people. Maybe I can leave like an email somewhere or put links. I don't no technology, but yeah, there'll be a way. And yeah, thank you so much for listening.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Kai. It's really inspirational, and it just shows how, yeah, you've shown how easy it can be and how much of a difference that river flow monitoring can make as well. Like you said, it's those key indicators. So it could be for short-term and long-term issues in the river. And I will ask where you send the data to. Actually, I'll add that to your case study, because that's a really important thing, to make sure that this data is making a difference, and that it's providing evidence, and it's building a case, a baseline, and it's showing what the health of the rivers is like now. So yeah, it's a really important thing to do. Thanks so much for sharing your enthusiasm and your knowledge. Really appreciate it, Kai, and the offer as well. That's great. And who have we got next? We've got Alex, who is from Avon Wildlife Trust, a nature reserves manager, who will be sharing some information very relevant to this, sharing some information about our new beaver project. Okay, Alex.
Hi everyone. As Alison kind of said in her talk, I kind of moved back to the West Country in 2022, and I had no idea that we had wild beavers on the Avon. So it's been really exciting, kind of discovering them and seeing them for the first time. I think we're in quite a unique kind of position, being where we are, having a wild population of beavers. There's a lot of wildlife trusts all across the country at the moment putting in expressions of interest to Natural England to try to undertake legal releases of beavers across the country, and we've already got them here, and they're pretty well established. So we're in a really good position to kind of learn a lot of things ahead of those releases, and kind of pass those learnings on to various wildlife trusts and other organisations across the country. Because what we're kind of finding is that actually we've got quite a lot of landowners and farmers that have been living with beavers for quite a few years now. I think we've probably got some landowners that may not even know that they're living with beavers yet, and some that are just kind of finding out, and are perhaps at that point of not quite knowing how to live alongside them and coexist with them. And that's really where the Beaver Advice and Support team that we've been lucky enough to get funding from the Wildlife Trust just a couple of months ago to set up. So my colleague Jen Robertson and I are sort of now heading out, trying to be that point of contact for landowners and farmers and sort of communities seeking advice in coexisting with beavers. It's going to be an 18-month project, so we've got quite a short window of opportunity, and what we really want to do is build a wealth of knowledge and a kind of community of people that are well trained, so that when that funding comes to an end in 18 months' time, we've got a really good support system of knowledgeable people out there, able to disseminate advice to those who need it. Obviously, there's loads of people kind of getting very enthusiastic about beavers, and as we should be, because they're going to do loads of great things for the environment. But I think we also need to have a sort of sympathetic ear, as there will be landowners and perhaps farmers in particular who are kind of wondering what impact beavers might have on their land and their businesses going forward. So as much as we want to shout about all the benefits of beavers, I think the sort of aim of this project is to have a sort of sympathetic ear and kind of acknowledge the fact that there will be people out there with legitimate concerns. And sort of for the last few years, this is sort of building on some work that kind of I think Rob Stevens' names has already been mentioned. He was sort of doing some great work, but there's been a couple of years now where perhaps there's been a bit of a gap and people may not have known where to go for advice. So that's where we're hoping to step in now for the next 18 months. That's sort of it, really. I'd just like to, if this is going to work, direct people to the Avon Wildlife Trust website. Oh, there's some really good resources there. This is, I've got a few pages. This is the Wild Beaver Population Assessment that was carried out by Natural England in 2022, published in 2023. That's fantastic kind of survey that was carried out. I think they found 13 territories across the Bristol Avon catchment, but we're a couple of years sort of further down the line now, and so part of the work that we're going to be doing is kind of filling in the gaps. We really want to know what's happened to the beaver population since this survey was done. And sort of on that note, all I'd say is that we're not seeking volunteers to carry out survey work as such, but if people are going about all of their other kind of rivery activities, we'd love it if you could go onto the AWT Beaver page here, and we've got a little online form at the bottom here where you can log your sightings. What I would say is there's other platforms which are available for recording. One that's being pushed a lot is Mammal Mapper, which is great. But within the sort of Bristol Avon area, if people can direct their sightings to the Avon Wildlife Trust website, it means that we, as Avon Wildlife Trust, get kind of instant access to the results. What we'll do is we'll make sure that all of that data is shared with the local, well, not just the local record centre, but the National Biodiversity Network as well. So we won't just be hanging on to that data, but if it comes directly through to us, it means that we've got instant access to it, and we can go out and investigate those sightings and start to build up a really good local picture of what's happened between that Natural England survey a couple of years ago and now. That's it, really. Thank you.
Brilliant. That's really good to know. Thanks for sharing that, Alex. And yeah, it's I think the fund's been a bit of a long time coming, because we did have someone that was offering support after beavers were back after 400 years, and now we've got that support again. So yeah, it's a really good opportunity to get advice about the realities of living with beavers, and yeah, to support landowners and farmers in that area. So yeah, it's amazing. The link is in the chat, and I'll share that afterwards as well, so that people can share their sightings, because I've heard that they are spreading, they are breeding, and they're working their way down the rivers. So yeah, it's all exciting. Brilliant, thank you. And I want to introduce our next speaker now. Becca, please. Thank you. It's nice to see you there. Becca is from Conan Bathing, and I was really excited to get Conan Bathing onto this resource as well, because I really wanted to share the amazing work that they do to raise awareness of the river issues, and they take really good action as well. There's lots of citizen science, lots of campaigning, and I'm sure you've heard of them as well. And yeah, it's a very capable set of people that work on Conan Bathing, all for and she'll be sharing all about the work that she's doing with, I believe, an emphasis on the rights of the river, which is really interesting, and I know a lot of you will definitely appeal to you. Okay, I'll hand over to Becca.
Thanks, Sophie. So yeah, hi everyone. I founded the campaign that's called Conan Bathing back in 2021, which now feels like a lifetime ago, with the very sort of optimistic aim of spending that summer of 2021, putting together an application for designated bathing water status for the River Avon at Conham. If you don't know it, there's a section of the urban Bristol Avon that flows through a neighbourhood called Conham. It's absolutely beautiful, and when I first moved to Bristol, a housemate at the time introduced it to me, and I just fell in love with it, and it made me feel like Bristol was really my home. But around that time, and especially during COVID, was actually the first time I learned about sewage pollution, and I was really shocked that had just become the status quo. And that I had been ignorant of it, and many people had been, I think, and we all sort of have, well, most of us have sort of learned about it in more recent years. There have been people campaigning about it for many years, of course, but I was really shocked, and I felt really guilty as well, because I felt that rivers had given me so much in my life. I was lucky enough to grow up in the Wye Valley, so of course I've always just been surrounded by beautiful rivers. And I was reflecting on this when Amy, during your presentation, you were listing just all the wonderful things that rivers do for us, ecologically, economically. We've always surrounded our societies around a river, really, and it's just been, at that moment, I just felt that I've been taking so much from rivers and not giving anything back, and I felt I've not been upholding my side of the relationship here. So I wanted to do something about it, but feeling very powerless around something like such a huge scale of pollution. What can you do as one person, especially if you're not an ecologist? My undergraduate was in modern languages, so what could a linguist really bring to this? So I decided to do a master's and to start a river campaign. So put the campaign together to apply for designated bathing water status. We did not get that designation, and there's a whole documentary about our attempts to get this designation, called Avon for the Avon. If you haven't seen it, it's a brilliant documentary made by someone who, a documentary filmmaker who reached out to us when she saw us sampling at the river, and she enjoyed filming us so much that she is now in the main core project group of the campaign. So I told her that's a completely unsustainable way to make documentaries. Yeah, so she's now one of our core campaigners, Charlotte. She's made this fantastic documentary called Avon for the Avon. There is actually a screening of it next week at the Tobacco Factory on the 18th, if you're interested in watching it and just seeing how much this section of the Avon means to the community. It's a really special film. But anyway, so we put together this campaign. We've been collecting samples at the river, water quality samples, every summer since 2021. Those samples have been analysed by Wessex Water's lab. So we've been collecting the samples just as volunteers and asking Wessex Water to analyse them. This year, we've now got lab analysis support from Surface Against Sewage instead. And a number of reasons for that. One of the main reasons was that they would be able to support us for an entire year, whereas Wessex Water was just supporting us over the summer months. So it's a really exciting year for the citizen science aspect of this campaign, because for the first time, we're going to get regular water quality sampling results over the winter months as well. And there's which is really important for many reasons, not just for humans who like to swim in the river in the winter, but just anyone who's passionate about the river or conscious and caring about the wildlife in the river. It'll be really interesting to see what happens to those pollution levels during the winter months, whether the cold weather impacts it, whether the increased rainfall impacts it. So we're all going to be really interested to see what those results are like. And yes, not an ecologist, but I've had a very quick education over the past 4 years, almost 5 years now, of learning a lot about different water quality parameters and following as this scandal became so well known across the nation and has been in headline news. We've had our sampling results quoted in Parliament, in national media. We were included in election coverage about whether Bristol was going to turn green during the last election. So it's really been a campaign that I expected only to last one summer and has ended up becoming so much bigger than I ever anticipated. But alongside, there's two main streams to the campaign. There is this citizen science element and us wanting to, the whole purpose of having designated bathing water status was to get more water quality monitoring of the Avon. I think BART do a fantastic job, but I would really like the Environment Agency to be sampling more frequently and to be able to contribute to this body of evidence that we have and to help hold polluters to account. So that has been that stream of work. And until then, we are doing what the Environment Agency would be doing. We are collecting those samples ourselves. But the other stream, which to me feels even more important, is the work that we're doing now on the rights of the river. And that is what I did my master's in a few years ago, was on the rights of nature and the rights of nature movement, and finding ways in which we might be able to recognise formally the rights of the River Avon. And this is where I'm now sort of moving my focus to this year. I've been able to recruit a wonderful team of volunteers to help take over the citizen science work that we've been doing. So we now have 50 volunteers who are going to be sampling the water quality at Conham, which is just fantastic. I think that shows just how beloved that spot is. And this year, now the core group of us, we're going to be focusing on the rights of the river. And this was really important to me because spending years accumulating all of this pollution data has felt really important and has felt empowering, but it has also felt really depressing and demoralizing at times, because we just see week after week sewage pollution and E. coli concentrations really high often, and that does feel demoralizing. And we all got depressed every time it rained because we thought there'd be more sewage pollution, and I realized that we can all agree on what we don't want our relationship to the river to be like, but what I also want to do is to promote a positive future and a vision of what we do want our relationship with the river to be like and what rights the river should have. And I think they're really reasonable and everyone would agree with them. So we put together the Thriving Avon Charter, which combines both the Universal Declaration of the Rights of Rivers. So this is a sort of an international document that lists rivers' rights. But also I wanted it to be a balance between sort of the global rights of rivers and also the local, and to allow locals to input into this document. So we held a public consultation last year to see what would you add to this list of rights for the Avon, and so we added a couple from that consultation. And I think what it does now, obviously this isn't a legally binding document, it's on our website. We have started promoting it at screenings of the documentary, but it just allows you to think of what could a positive future look like, and it's totally reasonable. It's things like the rivers have a right to flow free from pollution, and these are things that we should be working towards, I think. So that's sort of the two main streams of our campaign at the moment, and it's we're hoping now, we have, what I would say about rights of nature is that it's both an instrument, sort of policy-wise and legally, but it's also a moral framework. So this is what the Charter is hoping to be, is to a draft moral framework that we can all agree to, and then have some events coming up this year with some local academics at universities and city councillors to start thinking about how would we implement such a charter? How do we make sure that these rights are formally recognised? So that's the activity that we're focusing on this year. Thanks, back to you, Sophie.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. I knew you'd be a very good inspiration. They do a lot. I mean, Conan bathing. It's yeah. Originally, it was for the designated water bathing status, because if you have that status, the water will be regularly tested, like thoroughly. But that got rejected, and it led to all of this. Yeah, it's through that kind of, like said, the guilt, the eco anxiety, wanting to make a big change and doing that. And it just really shows that you don't have to be an ecologist. You don't have to have all the answers. Nobody will. But if you have a go, and I hear this from all the community groups, everyone's a bit, oh, wasn't sure what to do. And there's challenges and different things. But yeah, when the community comes together, it is something special. It supports people, and it does make real change. And yeah, that's why these stories and these events are so inspiring, because people that are making a change should have that light shone on them, and it will inspire other people. So yeah, thank you for all of our speakers for sharing what they do. And yeah, it's huge respect for putting yourself out there and protecting rivers now and for the future. It's great to see. I was going to see if there was any questions. I'm not sure if there's been any questions in the chat so far, but if there are any questions, people are very welcome to speak up and to say something. And also, this is kind of a platform to share what you're doing as well, or to say if there's anything else that's happening on your rivers nearby. We just want to talk about actions for nature near the rivers and bring people together. So what people have a think. Loz, did you have your hand raised for something to say?
I've just got a question.
Yay!
Yeah, I mean, I love hearing about what the coolest wildlife that you guys have actually seen around our rivers, our local rivers. I know Kai mentioned seeing an elver, which I would love to see an eel in our local rivers. But yeah, just a open question to the speakers. What is your coolest favourite wildlife that you've seen in rivers around here?
I did see a beaver in the Avon, and that was very exciting. At first, I thought it was a dog, and then I couldn't see anyone else. I couldn't see, a dog owner on the side, and it was swimming quite differently to a dog. And then as it got closer, yeah, and I squealed very loudly.
Was that in Conham?
No, it was actually quite close.
I didn't know they got that far.
Don't know what was up to. Just yeah, having a hunt for wood, I think.
I recently saw my first water stick insect in real life, which was pretty cool, pretty interesting to see that we have actual legitimate stick insects, but underwater in the UK. I always associate them with, like, your first pet you're allowed until you don't realise how small they are when they first hatch, and then your mum bans them from the house. So yeah, that was pretty cool.
At the event on Friday, there was a lot of people getting very excited about seeing dippers. That had the big reaction. So yeah, there's a lot of sightings there. Does anyone else have any other sightings to share on of wildlife they see on the river or near the river?
It's not really a river animal, but it was in Conham, just in the residential area of Conham. I stepped out of my friend's house and there was a badger outside her house, and that was also extremely exciting. And I also at first mistook it for a dog.
There are lots of strange shaped dogs where you live, Becca.
I just think everything's a dog.
Oh, nice. Marcus saw an otter in Bristol Harbour. That's a good spot.
Wow. It was a bit of a random one. But it was I'd just seen something bob out of the water, where the ship is with the fake helicopter on top of it.
Yeah.
Saw it pop up, and then could see it duck under, and then I could see like a trail of bubbles moving quite quickly underwater, and then it popped up again and stuck its head out before disappearing again. But it was really random to just see it in the harbour, because you wouldn't necessarily expect to see otters in the harbour.
Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't expect to see them in the harbour, but they're pretty happy in sort of brackish water. I guess because whilst they're living in the water, they're not, 100% of the time, they're just hunting. So that's pretty cool to see them there. I just noticed as well, Luke saw an osprey at Chew Valley Lake. That's pretty special. Amazing. Everybody's been seeing such cool species out and about. I think an osprey puts my little stick insect to shame, maybe.
Brilliant. And yeah, I'm not going to put Marcus on the spot too much, but hi, Marcus. I did invite Marcus. Marcus is one of the case studies from the Rivers Resource as well, and I'll pop the link. I mean, the River Resource links to all of the case studies as well, but that is a full set of the case studies now with Marcus as well, and he does a lot. Yeah, actually, Marcus, did you want to just share a little bit about what you do, or shall I? I said I'm not going to put you on the spot, and then I've just put you on the spot.
Absolutely put me on the spot, haven't you?
I can share a little bit. It's a really
I've been a keen paddleboarder for a number of years now. I'm in fact an instructor with Sub Bristol, but I really enjoy being out on the waterways. And as I say, I think as mentioned in chat, I can be found anywhere from Bristol Harbour all the way up to Bradford on Avon. It never ceases to amaze me, sort of the wonder of things that you discover in the river and some of the impacts that humans have on the river. Specifically, I know we talked about weather events recently. Certainly an output from extreme flooding is that it's really visible to see plastic waste or sewage waste caught in low-hanging branches in trees just by the waterways. The water quality testing that I've started doing recently, sorry, I'm trying to get lots of things out. The water quality testing I've started doing recently is part of the BART River Detectives program sponsored by Wessex Water, which is why, Becca, I might want to chat to you at some point about the stuff that you're doing through SAS, because whilst it's good to sort of get a sort of foothold in water quality testing and regular verified water quality testing that shows that exactly what's going on river waterways, I do find it slightly frustrating that it's only done monthly rather than a bit more regularly. And I think it's good to sort of really see the impact through some testing of what exactly is lurking just beneath the water level. So yeah, I'm not sure what else I can say. But if anyone wants to chat more about it, I can probably bore them senseless with my paddleboarding adventures and the things that I often see on the rivers.
No, that's brilliant. Thanks, Marcus. Yeah, I've just linked to your story in the chat as well. But
cool.
It is really good because what's happening upstream affects downstream. So where Alex is going to be working with lots of the landowners and the farm landowners and farmers further up the stream, and then there's Roebath Eastern. There's lots of different groups, but then if there was more of communication, then there is there'll be more impact. I mean, it's great. It would be great to for the different networks to join up as well. So yeah, there is an opportunity just to share where you are, and Kai's in for the River Avon as well. So yeah, there's lots of different community groups out there. But yeah, it would be great to do that. Does anyone have any
Sophie, Emma's got a hand raised.
Right, sorry. Okay, Emma?
No, all good. I was just going to share some public access sites that have some really cool aquatic-y, rivery wildlife. So at Grow Wilder at the moment, the ponds are filled with newts, more newts than I've ever seen in my life, and saw them displaying courtship behaviour the other week, which I never even knew what that was or had seen before. So if you want to see lots of newts flapping their tails, it's crystal clear water and you can see hundreds of newts. That's at Grow Wilder, which is easily accessible. And also Lawrence Weston Moor, which is in, I'm not sure what postcode that's in, but it's public access and it's got a really good population of water voles. So you might either see them, if you're lucky enough in person, the main lake bit, you can sit in the evening and I've seen them in person, or there's also a lot of little signs that they're there. If you look for poo shaped like Tic Tacs, that is a sign that you've seen waterfalls. So yeah, just some cool sites that people might like to visit.
Yeah, that's good to know. We've had a poo done it social media posts on Avon Wildlife Trust before, where I've shared a picture of waterfall poo and people have to guess what that is. So yeah, it's always a good one. Might include a link to that in this rivers resource as well, just for a bit of fun there. That's amazing. We have got a question. Yeah, we've got a question for Kai. Loz, did you want to ask Kai your question on here?
Sure. So I just was wondering how much time, I know you said that you did monitoring monthly or bi-monthly, but how much time, like per month, does the river fly monitoring that you do require?
Literally a day, like, is all I would set aside for it, because yeah, you go down, you do the sampling, you do it all quite quickly, because again, you don't want to keep everything out the water too long, put it back. Count them, and yeah, and then I tend to upload the data straight away if I'm uploading it, so I don't forget. So yeah, it doesn't actually take up too much time, I don't think.
Cool. So like a couple of hours or a few hours, something like that?
Yeah, a couple of hours, be
Nice.
more than enough. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
No worries.
Good to know. A few hours to make a difference as well. That's brilliant. And the Rivers Resource have got links like direct to the riverfly monitoring, direct to the river detectives and things like that. So yeah, but doing a lot of work, and also for Surfers Against Sewage as well. So we've got the link for there on there. I'm pretty sure, yeah, I added it to the Common Bathing resource as well. So because you've been using that, so that's on there. Becca, have you got a question? You got your hand raised?
Yes, I have a beaver question, a couple of questions maybe for Alex. So the first of all, a friend of mine sent me what looked like, well, it was very obvious evidence of beavers in the Bybrook. I just wondered if that's a known spot. I will obviously tell him to upload it to log it in the beaver sighting thing.
Thank you. Yeah. So Emma's probably got lots to say on this as well, because she's the real beaver expert. But as far as I know, the population that we're kind of now seeing in the main body of the Avon has originated from sort of beaver bombing in the Bybrook. So that was the original population, as far as I kind of know.
Wow, okay. And obviously I think I can understand that locations, are probably mapped within the organization privately, and that won't really be shared publicly, I'm guessing, because
so that Natural England population assessment is publicly accessible online, and that will give everyone a pretty good idea of where beavers are. But to be honest, I think probably in this group of people here, everyone kind of knows the real hotspots, and although we're not going to publicly share details of specific kind of new sites, I think it's pretty common knowledge that places like Bath Easton, you can see signs of beavers and potentially beavers themselves. There's plenty of kind of rivery groups out there that are well aware of where the beavers are.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, that's good to know. There was at the event on Friday in Bath Easton. Yeah, there was a lot of people talking about sightings and things like that around there. So yeah, and it's going to grow. It will grow down the river, definitely. It's all exciting. Emma, I've seen that you've put a shout out for the wildlife champions. Did you want to just say a few words about this, because that I can see quite a few champions in the chat anyway, and so it's definitely the way forward. Big supportive community. So would you like to say a few words about that?
Yeah, thanks, Sophie. So two of our amazing speakers this evening, Kai and Alison, are wildlife champions for Avon Wildlife Trust. And very excitingly, we've received funding to expand that project for another 3 years, which is rare in the world of funding. So I'm very, very grateful. So I've put in the chat the new postcode areas where we'll be working. But basically, what the Wildlife Champions Programme is for anyone who has a passion about nature, who wants to share that passion for nature with their community and bring people along with them. And what the Champions Programme can provide is training, workshops, mentoring, support, and then you'll get to create this peer support network with other wildlife champions and like-minded people, so that, you know, a lot of people feel a bit on their own doing this kind of work. And we found it's really nice to link people together, make people realize that there's a lot of other people doing similar things, and you feel part of that supportive network. So yeah, if you want to find out more, I've put a link in the chat to the website, and we're also running a taster day at the end of June at Grow Wilder, where you can ask more questions, meet existing champions, Avon Wildlife Trust staff. So yeah, please get in touch if you want to know more about that.
Yeah, that's brilliant. It is
really recommend
do the Wildlife Champions. Yeah, there's been so much knowledge shared as well, and kind of like questions and challenges and topics that came up with the Wildlife Champions. We've done our best to kind of share that information as well through the stories and the resources on Team Wilder. So we really do try and we update them as much as possible. But I'll there's a few on the resource, but I'll share some as well that Amy has heavily written as well, to do with like wildlife monitoring, how to take over green space, invasive non-native species. There's a lot of questions and key themes that were coming up with community groups that we want to share with everybody through different specific stories, and also general knowledge as well. That's great. I know Amy's got a lot of experience with if you're in a community group, you've probably met Amy. She's she's definitely gone out. So yeah, I mean, this event, it's all about kind of like the joy and the love that we have for our rivers. And yeah, it was something that everybody shared within these stories as well, was the need to protect these rivers now. Like, there is action that needs to be taken now. It's it's not just noticing that there's like less clean water, it's proving it with evidence. So yeah, there is a movement building and there is action to be taken. So by joining community groups, you're really going to be making a difference and building that up. But yeah, the being in the rivers is it's a slower pace of life. It's away from the roads. I think personally people are generally a lot friendlier, and yeah, there is a lot of activity. Just the river yesterday, there was people like jumping in and swimming and kayaking. So yeah, there's a lot of activities there. So yeah, it's great. Does anybody have any other questions for our speakers or for Amy? Just trying to see if there's anything else happening in there. Yeah, Luke sharing about invasive non-native species, which is a huge community event. Yeah. I mean, by some bashing.
Totally on that note about invasive species, check out the Avon Invasive Weeds Forum. They mostly operate through Facebook, but they're a formal branch of the national sort of local action groups of the Invasive Species Secretariat. Sorry, right now is the moment my dog's decided to glug water next to me, so it's hard to concentrate. But yeah, Avon Invasive Weeds Forum. Check that out if you are dealing with local invasive species, but also if you'd like to get involved in or have help coordinating local action events. And also thanks everybody for attending on a school night. It's really good to see so many people, and I can't wait to see some people face to face this weekend at Millennium Square and We the Curious, because that's where we're all going to be, isn't it, Soph?
Definitely. There's just say that this is part of the Festival of Nature, and there are a lot of events coming up, especially at Millennium Square this weekend, but there's been over 70 community events as part of it. We'll be sharing that in the follow-up as well, because you can, as Loz said earlier, there is still time to sign up. And also we would love some feedback as well. We'll be, I don't know if Loz wants to share that into the, on it, there we go. And I'll share that in the follow-up email as well, just so that the more feedback that we get, the more likely we are to get more funding to support more community groups and to get more of these messages out as well. So just a few moments of your time would really be appreciated. But yeah, is there no other questions? I think we're all good. There we go. So I might end it there then. But please feel free to get in contact through the follow-up email. And then, if I can't answer the question, there's a lot of knowledge out there. There's people that I work with that can answer it, and all of the community groups as well. And together we really can make a difference to help protect rivers now and for the future. Brilliant. So thank you, everybody. I'll leave you to enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you so much for attending.
Thanks,
Thanks all. Cheers.
Thank
See you
you.
soon.
Take
Bye.
care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Cheers.
Thank you, everyone.